In back-to-back weeks, two of the all-time greats have retired from the sport. We had the lightweight GOAT, Khabib Nurmagomedov, putting his gloves in the center of the octagon for the last time as he defeated Justin Gaethje in emphatic fashion. And this Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada, the middleweight GOAT, Anderson the Spider Silva, is going to do the same thing. I'm Daniel Levy with linemovement.com, and let's take a closer look at what made Khabib Nurmagomedov and Anderson Silva so great. There's going to be two back-to-back emotional weeks for UFC fans. Obviously, the greatest lightweight of all time, Khabib Nurmagomedov, just retired. And this Saturday night, as I mentioned, Anderson Silva is going to retire as well. And we can sit here and debate who's the greatest of all time, but that's a separate discussion. Let's do that another day, because I know Johnny Bones Jones has something to say about that. But something that isn't debatable right now, it might be down the line, but right now, the best lightweight of all time is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and the best middleweight of all time is Anderson the Spider Silva. So I know one day Israel Adesanya, he might catch up, but as of right now, that belongs to Anderson Silva. But these two were great for very different reasons. With Anderson Silva, it was the artistry. I mean, he was out there like a virtuoso. It was like a masterclass. Still to this day, I've never seen anyone replicate the kind of performances that he had in his prime. I mean, you look at his UFC debut versus Chris Lieben, and right away, I mean, he stood out. No one's ever done Chris Lieben like that before. And then you take it a step further when he dethroned Rich Franklin, when he defended the belt against Rich Franklin, and even the Forrest Griffin fight. I mean, I've never seen someone clown their opponent and be in full control just like Anderson was that fight. You guys got to go back and rewatch that Forrest Griffin fight if you've never seen it. It's truly, I mean, the guy was in the Matrix back then, and we had never seen anything like it. And we truly thought that he was going to retire undefeated in the UFC. I know back in the day, he had a couple losses in Japan, the flying scissor heel hook, but we thought that he was way past that. The knockout over Vitor with the front kick to the face, totally innovated the game back then, and no one had ever seen anything like it. And to this day, he's got the most finishes in middleweight history. He's got the most finishes in UFC title fights. And honestly, between you and me, he's got the most title defenses in UFC history. But unfortunately, Travis Lutter actually missed weight for their fight, so it didn't count as an official title defense. And back then, if an opponent misses weight, it just became like a regular non-title fight. Whereas nowadays, if one guy makes weight and the other guy doesn't, the guy that makes weight is still a title fight for them. So had that fight been contested in 2020, that would have been a title defense for Anderson Silva, and he would sit here with the record today. But instead, he sits here with the most title defenses in middleweight history, which still isn't half bad. I mean, that's still really badass, but we all know he's got the most title defenses in UFC history and just some of the best performances we've ever seen. I mean, like I said, most finishes in title fights. Now, with Khabib, it's a little bit different. This guy, it's easy to sit here and call him a specialist because, he's landed 61 takedowns in 13 UFC fights. I repeat, 61 takedowns in 13 UFC fights. That's truly unheard of. But man, people slept on his stand-up too. He's still the only man in UFC history and MMA history to go out there and knock down Conor McGregor. He was still out there against Justin Gaethje, who everybody said, hey, if he stands with Justin Gaethje, Justin's going to knock him out. He was going out there throwing knees against Gaethje. He had 0 Fs in the world against Justin Gaethje. He went forward the entire time. So we cannot sleep on the stand-up of Khabib Nurmagomedov. I know you guys remember at Madison Square Garden when he put on that jab clinic against Ally Quinta, or when he went in there trading kicks with Edson Barboza. So Khabib Nurmagomedov, truly a special athlete. And I think what's different about the two is that, we did see some vulnerability in Anderson Silva from time to time. Like, for example, the Dan Henderson fight. He lost the first round, comes back in that second round with a beautiful combo, finishes the fight with the rear naked choke. Or even the Chael Sonnen fight the first time. He lost 4.5 rounds of that fight, but showed the championship heart to stay in there and eventually finish the fight with that triangle. Whereas Khabib Nurmagomedov, I mean, I don't think you guys can even point out to one round that he's lost inside the octagon. I know people will refer to that Gleison Tebow fight from back in the day, but guys, the scorecards were 30-27 times 3. So he won all 3 of those rounds. So, man, it's just a different kind of dominance. You got to give the style points to Anderson Silva because, I mean, he definitely, look, it's not a debatable fact. He's got more bonuses, and he was out here just styling on guys and just looking flashy doing it. But Khabib Nurmagomedov, the dominance has to go to him. Even though Anderson's got more title defenses, the fact that Khabib's had 29 pro fights and never lost a round. I mean, 29-0. You only see records like that in boxing. So both these guys have to be appreciated for different reasons, and they will go down as the GOATs in their respective divisions. Now, will they go down as the all-time GOATs? You got to inject Johnny Bones Jones into that conversation, but that's a different debate for a different time. But lightweight GOAT, Khabib Nurmagomedov, middleweight GOAT, Anderson the Spider Silva. We truly want to thank them and appreciate them for everything they've done for this sport. And it's going to be an emotional moment Saturday night when Anderson retires. We'll see if he goes out on a win or not. You know what happens when these guys stick around long enough, which is another reason you got to give so much credit to Khabib Nurmagomedov, because he went out on top, which is something you don't often see. You often see these guys stick around too long. They don't know when to say when. You see BJ Penn, and no one talks about how BJ Penn won the lightweight belt. No one talks about how BJ Penn won the welterweight belt. No one talks about how BJ Penn went up to 205 and fought Lyoto Machida. They only talk about how he stuck around too long and now he's on a 7-fight skid. So I hope that's not the narrative for a guy like Anderson Silva. I hope that people go back and remember the great times we had when he truly felt invincible. He felt like no one we had ever seen before, and it was going to take a true special individual to dethrone him at the time, because I mean, like I said, I thought the guy was in the Matrix back in the day. So thank you, Anderson. Thank you, Khabib. Big difference between their two legacies, but the GOATs of their respective divisions, and all good things must come to an end. Khabib went out on top. Hopefully Anderson does too. But guys, I hope you found this video informative. I'm Daniel Levy with linemovement.com, and thank you very much for watching this video. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you like what you see, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time at Line Movement MMA.